Tony, I think my background is better than yours right now.
You are definitely winning the day. I've taken many losses as it relates to technology since last year, but that's all right. We'll persevere.
Tony, how ready are the guys for SEC play?
I don't get the sense they're overly giddy or anything like that, but I think it's probably the same for everybody around the country. It's an exciting yet eerie feeling because here we are. This was, I know not the calendar day, but this was the day it stopped for everybody last year. So just to be able to move on and get to the next thing is certainly a good feeling. It's got, like I said, kind of a unique twist to it, but I think for all SEC teams, you're going to see an explosion of energy and passion for the game starting tonight, when I think Florida and A&M are maybe the first two teams to go this evening.
Tony, just with Camden pitching on Tuesday, had a really nice 2 innings, and then I believe it was the third that he ran into a bit of trouble. Just going into SEC play, where do you see Camden fitting in with this pitching staff?
Well, I don't know what the numbers say now, but prior to that outing, he had pitched 3 years for us and had a batting average against around 180. I used that in maybe another discussion we had via media. And he's a guy who's been in all kinds of situations, SEC, postseason, midweek games, non-conference, whatever it might be. And he's shown he can get outs when he's under control and he's competing. And much like many of our players in the lineup or coming out of the bullpen or on the mound, if they're just themselves, they don't even have to be the best version of themselves on that particular day. If they just stay with who they are and be Camden or be whatever that person's name is, I trust them, and I know the other coaches do too. And so he's just another one of those guys that if we see the situations fits, pitch count won't prevent him from throwing this weekend. If he doesn't throw it all this weekend, he'll be a candidate to start another game, but that's too far down the road for us to be looking at those decisions.
We'll go to John next, and then Gustavo after that. John, can you hear me? All right, we'll go to Gustavo first and then see if John gets his audio sorted out.
Coach, you're starting SEC play this weekend. The way you finish this non-conference series, winning 4 straight, is the way you're finishing, is that what you expected? How are your feelings the way you finished this non-conference, beginning of the season, going to SEC play, was the way you expected?
Yeah, I think we want to build steam. And to be honest with you, I think we sorted through some things quicker than I thought we potentially could. And all I have is history to judge that off of. New expectations for the program, new expectations for some players. A lot of our best players are like Garrett Crochet. They had never dealt with some of the attention that comes with developing into a pretty good player. And so I was impressed with how our group sorted through things in the non-conference. It doesn't mean we have it all figured out. It doesn't mean every player on the roster doesn't have some things they need to do before, again, we can check that box at like, hey, you're just being you. Which with all the training we've put in, again, that's all they need to be. But you certainly want to gain momentum or some steam as you get into conference play, a big weekend, the postseason. You always want to be building. And that's what our program's set up to do. It certainly comes with some bumps in the roads, but sort of expected some of the things, but was impressed in some other areas too, if that's an answer that suits.
Oh, yeah. And in terms of this attention, is that being on the top 10 team in the country, is that one of the things that you think about in terms of getting attention? To being the top 10 team in the country kind of brings that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think now they're used to it, and I don't think it bothers them that much. We don't put an emphasis on that at all, but it's a unique number you bring up. I was at another school, and for the first time ever, we were, preseason accolades, and we were that number, 10. And no one handled it very well. And part of the reason is no one had been in that situation before. Of course, that didn't, that shouldn't stop you from being able to handle it well, but it certainly makes it more of a roadblock. And I didn't hear until I was on the radio myself, the number flashed out that it was 2007 was the last time there was some preseason stuff like we had this year. So that's kind of more where the lightning bulb went on above my head, and it's like, okay, that makes sense why some guys maybe acted a little different or out of character. And you want that stuff, but with it comes pressure. And we want this program to get good enough to where, like our basketball team or our, women's basketball is included in this for such a long time. We want a target on our back. That means we've been doing some things right. And I don't know if we're into that category yet, but again, we always want to be on an incline. So we'll take whatever comes in the media with that.
All right, we'll check back and see. John, do you have us?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Do you like where your pitching staff is in terms of the roles as to who might get the ball this weekend beyond Chad, as well as what you have coming out of the bullpen?
Yeah, I do. And I think one big reason is there's a bunch of different looks. Some guys who throw differently than the guy they might be handing the ball off to when they come out of the game. And then there's certainly an assortment of guys who have really good experience. And then you have the next category of, okay, there's all these innings that are kind of up for grabs because we haven't yet solidified roles completely. And there's also been some guys banged up, and Fitzy had to deal with COVID early and things like that. So who's going to step into those roles? And so you got these hungry new guys or guys who haven't soaked up SEC innings yet, complementing some guys that have pitched in some very big situations. And I think it's a good blend for now. I always like competition. And again, we know what our plan is going into this weekend against Georgia, but I'm willing to bet a lot of money, if it was legal, that for me at least, in May, that we'll have kind of a different assortment of guys that we're using whatever weekend series that is. Because there is competition, you're going to see some guys continue to work hard, and that hard work will pay off. And then there might be some guys that get passed up if they're sleeping on those guys.
All right, we'll go back to Rick and then back to Ben.
Tony, how mature is this group to stay in the moment? Getting back to that ranking thing, to stay in the moment and not think too much about big picture, SEC tournament or SEC title, national title. How mature are these guys?
Yeah, you make me laugh with that word, because the last game we played, there was a lack of maturity at times, but it was just because you got kids being emotional on both sides. And we met the other day and talked about emotion as, it's a byproduct of some good things. I mean, it's important to you to win or have your teammates back, or you have passion behind what you're doing. You just have to control those emotions. And one of those emotions is just some of the things that comes with thought, like kind of what you're getting at with your question. I don't know how to quantify it. I just know if you compare again to history with the teams we've had at Tennessee so far, we're light years ahead of the first 2 years we were here. And now we're finally starting to show some of the characteristics and even a better version of last year. Able to get through adversity, coming together, having some personality and a little bit of quirkiness in a good way, having some fight and some togetherness when things get tough. And again, I think part of it is their schedule has been so difficult. Call it COVID or scheduling or whatever you want, but there's certainly progress in that area as well.
Tony, this Georgia team looks a good bit different than it did 2 years ago. Seems like they were hit pretty good by the shortened draft. Just what do you see out of them this year, and what are you all going to need to do in order to find some success down there this weekend?
Well, I think they're like our team. If we would have gone to South Carolina last year, Garrett Crochet's start would have got a lot of hype. And I bring that up because last time Georgia was here, it was all about Emerson Hancock. He was the potential, 1-1 or first pick overall type of guy, and a couple other big arms that soaked up a lot of attention. But there's many guys that play over the course of a weekend, not just pitch. And so for us and them, I think there's a much more balanced field. And so you may not know some of these names as household names, but from recruiting, a lot of them look very familiar. And then playing against these guys, a guy like Cole Tate that's got their best numbers offensively, if I'm not mistaken, has been there for quite some time. And then there's new faces like Collins that were, premier guys on the recruiting scene that are now getting their action. So they will become those names that kind of get hyped up by the end of the year or maybe in a matchup at another time. So it's a little more balanced of a club. I think we are too. I think they can show you a lot of different looks on the mound. They have a bunch of lefties, and they do some different things offensively. They don't just rely on, 2 or 3 guys to wail away or whatever it might be like that.
All right, John, did you have another one?
Yes, the fact that we are dealing with still reduced crowds and capacity, do you think that'll be a different feel normally? And granted, it doesn't take many for an opposing team's fans to be loud, whether you're at home or on the road. But how different do you think the atmosphere might be when we're so used to, in conference play, it being packed and loud wherever you go?
Yeah, well, I think when you're talking about the SEC, it's going to be loud. It's just going to be sometimes, like at our games, it might be 5 people that are louder than everybody else in the stadium, and you kind of hear things more often. But I think we are blessed to go down to Georgia Southern. I mean, there was no mastermind plan, but it's kind of unique how it worked out. We started our season going to Georgia Southern, where baseball is important there. They got really good crowds, as you saw, and they were into the games. I think they even had a big basketball game going on one day, and some of their fans told our video coordinator, why would we go to the basketball game when there's baseball starting up? So I think it'll be a little bit different than Georgia Southern because we'll be in a SEC ballpark, which some of our guys have played in, like Luke and Heflin and Pete. But I think we're blessed that the trip will be very similar to how we went down to Georgia Southern as it relates to logistics.
Ben, go ahead.
Tony, I know you're not going to really care about this stat, but you're 1 win away. If you can manage to get 1 win in your next 10, you'll be the fastest Tennessee head baseball coach to 100 wins. What does that mean to you, and kind of say about the work that you all have been able to do over your first couple of seasons?
Yeah, well, certainly no disrespect because you guys have a job to do, but the Scherzer group text message that I'm on is incredible, and it's every day. It's relentless. So if you ever need stress relief or a laugh, I go to that thing. And one thing they always talk about is going 1-0. And even if I'll keep it clean, but let's just say you go to Target and you spend under $100 or something, that's 1-0. That's a victory. And so we're trying to go 1-0 tonight with our Thursday practice. I know they've gotten rain, so I just hope we get on the field, and we need it to be a winning practice. And then obviously our main focus, if you're getting on that bus or in our cars today, you're thinking about winning Friday's games. So let's come back to that when we go 1-0. But the first thing we got to do is go 1-0 tonight and get familiar with their park. And we got guys that got to throw bullpens and hopefully have some good training so we can feel good about ourselves tomorrow when we show up at the park.
All right. Any more questions for Coach? All right. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you guys. See you
Thanks,
soon.
Tony.